Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, 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 welcome. How are we today, tonight, this evening? How's everybody doing on this last day of November? Everybody doing okay? That's good. I hope everybody's doing well. You look well. Look well rested. You look cheeky. I hope everybody had a great November and is ready for this December. It's cold December. Sorry, I am exhausted. It was a long day here. But it is good to be home and here with you guys. So that I am happy for. So we are going to jump. Oh, wait a minute. I just skipped right over. This is Rush to Judgment. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. This is Rush to Judgment with Jessica, and I'm Jessica. It's nice to meet you. It's nice to see you. I'm glad you've joined us. We are returning today to the Nicole Nachtman trial. She is on trial for the unaliving of her parents. And she is pleading not guilty by reason of insanity. And did you know this little thing's called an affirmative defense? I learned this the other day when I was learning about this face eater case that's going on currently or took place earlier this week, that the defense then has to prove that the defendant themselves is actually insane at the time of the crime. So the burden is not all shifted to the prosecution like it normally is. That was my understanding. If I'm wrong, let me know. But that was my understanding. But if that is true, that's news to me. I did not necessarily know that. So, it should, because I don't think I've ever watched a trial such as this where somebody actually does claim that defense. So, it should be interesting. Should be. You know, I say every time that everything is fine. But you know, my animals, they mess with things. They hit things. And it knocks things off center, knocks things off kilter, and it makes them not okay anymore. At least not okay in my eyes. So we are going to get back into this and see what it brings. Yeah, so we're on day 2 of the testimony. I think the first one is the neighbor, and then we got some detectives. starting to testify. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. We shall get into it. The neighbor is the one that called the 911 after he heard the shots fired for the mom.
Court is now in session.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing this morning? We have a couple of minutes. Two of the jurors were running late, and the bailiff, deputy the board just let me know they're bringing them over now from across. So it'll take them a couple of minutes. I suspect that these don't want to take them in there, let them settle their stuff. So is there anything we need to take up?
We're having a little bit of a technical.
Uh-oh.
That's what we're working on now.
Okay.
I love this
We have someone
judge.
coming to-
Okay. All right, then that works out fine.
I wonder if he
They can
has
settle
like
in there,
a
use the restroom if they have to.
live stream to his
So we'll give them a few
courtroom.
minutes when they get in the jury room.
I wonder what his name is.
Judge, yesterday we were advised that a lot of text messages came flying through that even when the court
Oh,
was
yeah.
not formally in session, that there was a live stream that was going on. We would like for you to direct that there be no live streaming of this courtroom unless the proceedings are actually formally in session, and primarily it doesn't allow us for you to have any types of conversations among ourselves or even with each other on sensitive matters. And so if the court was so direct, the media, right now it's being live streamed before you even took the bench. And that's problematic when we're trying to get things in order today.
Let me ask you, because
Problematic.
sometimes we've had this come up where they can't necessarily turn off the video, but I think I can direct it to turn off the audio.
That's fine.
Okay.
That's
I don't know if any of the media personnel who are in the courtroom now can address that.
I can let Mike Moore know.
Right, and I saw Mike when I was coming in, and Mike was here, he just left. So we will let them know. I suspect there's somebody else remotely who has some type of a master switch, and I will direct them that only have an audio stream when court is in session.
Thank you, Your Honor.
You're welcome.
Judge Christopher Sabella.
Settling in, I figured, yeah, I said we'll give them a few minutes. I knew. Christina told me, and I let the attorneys know. Thank you, though. Once we give them a couple minutes to settle, is the state ready? Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, the technical issue. We're waiting for somebody, and Bob, you might be able to see if you've been in this courtroom longer than any of us.
Yeah, I have it. I might just send
Hillsborough County.
I can see the deputy outside.
Appointed by Governor Jeb Bush.
Judge.
Yeah.
Moore, down there, let them know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Moore from Court Services is going down to let them in the media room know that not to stream anything, any audio unless we're in session.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Did we resolve the,
We'll just try, I'm trying to just test out this second one, just so it's,
yeah,
take 2 seconds.
all members of the jury are present and seated. Everyone else may be seated this time. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good morning. Welcome back. Thank you for coming back in this weather out there. It's completely understandable. Getting here was not easy this morning. So thank you again for your patience with us, with the weather, and being here this morning. My first question to you before we get started, in just a moment, we're going to pick up where we left off, and I'm going to ask the state to call their next witness, is did any of you have any
He talks
contact
fast
with anyone
when
outside
you
of the courtroom
speed him
about
up.
this case. And by that, I mean, did you read anything, see anything, hear anything, or discuss with anybody anything about this case? If so, please raise your hand. All right, let the record reflect that none of the jurors have had any contact with the case outside of the courtroom. Is the state ready to proceed?
You are, Your Honor.
I'll ask you to call your next witness.
Approach, I'm sorry.
Yes.
We do-
Oh, for God's sakes. Couldn't handle your shit before?
Mr. Rowe, good morning and welcome, sir. If you'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable, if you'll face me and raise your right hand. Perfect. Thank you.
Oh,
Please
wait,
swear
we
affirm
don't
the
have to
testimony
listen
you
to
give in
it.
this proceeding,
Or
including the
wait.
truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Yes. Thank you. If you'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone is adjustable.
Our microphone is adjustable.
Chair, you may proceed.
Morning, Mr. Rowe. If you could please state your name for the jury and then spell your name for the court reporter.
It's Wesley Rowe, Wesleyroe.
And, Mr. Rowe, where do you live?
I live in Tampa, Florida, 33624.
How long have you lived there?
12 years now.
And who lives?
Wife Elena Rowe, my stepdaughter Elizabeth Ray.
Do you know the defendant, Nicole Nachtman?
Yes.
And how do you know her?
She was the daughter of our neighbor next door.
And how about her mother, Miriam Deans? Did you know her?
Yes,
And just say.
she was our neighbor.
Okay, and Robert Deans as
Yes.
well? And you knew all three of them?
Yes.
When did you first meet them?
Obviously, when they moved in, I don't remember the exact year.
And were you friends with them or neighborly with them, or how would you describe the relationship?
Just neighborly.
Would you say hi to them when they were walking out?
Yes.
Did you all share, like, if your mom was going out of town, did you all do things for each other?
Yeah, they picked up our mail at times when we were out of town.
Would you do the same for them if they needed it?
I think we did it maybe once. I can't totally remember.
And who did you see mostly?
Bob.
Bob?
My eye is
why is that?
twitching.
He would usually be outside working on his house, doing yard work or, doing some outside of his house. So I would see him at times.
Okay, now I'm showing you a photo that has already been introduced into evidence, states exhibit 1B. Is that the home you're referring to that you lived in?
Yes.
Or are living in currently
Yes.
still? Yes, okay. Your house.
I would say it's a little bit more on the closest side,
Any privacy fences, anything in between?
not between their house.
I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna show you what's marked as states exhibits 3A through D and ask if you can just take a look at them and see if you recognize what those are.
Yeah, that's our house and theirs.
Okay, and what is it? Are there pictures of your houses?
Yeah.
From directly in front or from above?
Above.
And do they fairly and accurately depict your houses as they look from the sky?
Yes.
Judge, move to have states exhibits number 3A through D admitted into evidence.
Any questions? They'll be in it.
Publisher?
You may vote.
States exhibit 3A. Can you identify what we're looking at here?
Our house is on the left, their house is on the right.
Okay, so when you say your house on the left, that would be that one?
Yes.
Left looking at the screen?
Yep.
Okay. And that's the overhead of Ms. Nachtman's house?
Yes.
And states 3B,
Um,
we're basically looking at the same thing from a different angle?
Yeah. The first house, or the one on the right there is theirs, and then there's our house there.
So this is,
Yep.
Ms. Nachtman, and this one's here.
Yes, is ours.
It's yours. Okay. And that yard between the barrier, so you all had to look directly to the side of their house and they look directly to the side of their house. And do y'all, the backyard, is it just almost like a shared backyard for it, or how's that set up?
Well, it's actually most of our property. There are lots like a pie shape. So most of the property is ours, and then it backs up to like a pond or a little lake.
States 3C, this will be another angle of this house as well? Correct?
Yes.
Right. And then states 3D, is from a little higher up and a little more.
You have
distance.
to say
That's what you're
words.
referring to?
Yeah.
Right, and the access around the lake, it looks like there's no fencing or anything, so you can go anywhere you want around that lake.
You can, there's like an open field on the left there.
So people's houses, the area around the lake, is that like an easement?
It's an easement, yeah.
Okay.
He's fidgety. And he seems very,
Now, going to the
his
summer of
fidgets
2015,
seem a little
did you see Ms. Nachtman around the house?
more
I would
prevalent.
see her periodically,
Sped up.
like she was home from like college for the summer.
Now, with Ms. Nachtman, what was your interaction like with her?
Didn't really interact much with her. Just would see her. I mean, I just kind of see her go, come go.
And did you see her in the courtroom here today? Do you
Yes, I
recognize her?
Yeah,
Can you identify for the record, please?
lady right there.
And what is she wearing?
She's got a gray cardigan.
She wear it. There you go.
The record reflects she said that.
Right, that's what it was.
Now, in the summer of 2015, were you working that summer?
Yes,
Where were you work? I didn't even ask you that.
I work for Hillsborough County Development Services. I'm a project manager, and I was at that time as well.
And what are your normal working hours?
Probably between 8 and 5.
How about your wife, Elena? Did she work as well?
Yes, she does.
And what were her hours?
It was probably more like 9:30 to like 6:30 or 10 to 7.
She got in a little bit
Yeah,
later.
she comes later, yeah.
Okay. And while you all work, where was Elizabeth?
I think at that time she was mostly home for the summer, staying home.
Specifically on August 20th of 2015, you were living in that house.
Yes.
And you were working at the same place.
Yes.
Right. And were you working on that day?
Yes.
Do you recall approximately what time you got home that day?
It could have been, 5:45 or a little bit before 6, somewhere in that range, depending on traffic.
And was anyone there when you got home?
I think I remember my daughter being home there, yeah.
Did she at some point leave or go to orientation?
If I remember, yeah, she had gone to some kind of school orientation to go to high school, for Sickles High School, yeah.
And she went with her father, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Your stepfather?
That's correct.
Now, at some point, while you two were home, did there come a time where you two were together discussing Sickles High School and what y'all were going to do?
Yeah, it was sometime probably like around 9 o'clock or so, a little bit after that.
So already dark outside?
Yeah, it was already dark outside, 9:15 or something like that. We started talking about her going to high school and what was going on, how was, seeing the high school, how was it?
And what room were you all in?
I was in her bedroom.
Okay. And her bedroom, when we look at these houses, going back to 3B, look at this picture. Where in your house would her bedroom be?
You almost can see a window there, so the farthest to the right.
Okay.
Um,
Are you referring to the only windows you can see
Yeah.
that are right there?
Yeah, but one more over.
This one here?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's her bedroom?
Yes,
And you all were in there that night?
yes.
What happened while you were in that room?
I mean, we were speaking, and I'm guessing around 9:20 or maybe a little bit before then. We heard a pop, and then I heard a pop, pop. It almost sounded like fireworks. And I was kind of thinking maybe, there were some kind of kids outside, doing fireworks or goofing off or something. So I didn't know exactly what it was. I basically walked out to our living room to see what was going on, and I kind of heard like a scream. It wasn't a kid's scream, it was kind of scream of, agony or disbelief. And next thing I saw was a shadowy figure run between the two windows in our living room towards back to that lake.
All right, now I'm gonna get into that with a little more detail with you. So, the shots you said, you just described it as bang, and then you said there was a pause.
There was a pause, and then there was 2 more.
And were those more rapid in
Yes.
succession?
He said a
Right after.
pop.
Were you and Elizabeth startled when you heard this noise?
I was startled at first. I didn't know, obviously, if it was kids doing fireworks or something like that, or what was exactly going on. When I went out to the living room and saw the shadowy figure run, that's kind of, I think I really got startled and thought something might be up.
Now, this shadowy figure you described, could you tell whether the figure was male, female?
No.
Anything distinguishing at all about the figure?
Just running back towards the lake.
So in that picture that we had earlier, it would be running from the driveway between the two houses
Mhm.
towards the lake?
Yes.
I'll show you another couple pictures, exhibit 4A and B. Do you recognize those?
Yes.
And what are those pictures of?
That's a picture of one of our windows in our living room.
Is this the fact of this picture fairly accurately
Yes.
depicts that window in your
Totally
living room?
accurate.
Judge, we got statements of 4A and B in the evidence.
No objection.
And was this the window you saw the figure as you described run by?
That window, and then to the next window, there's a second window.
So this window here, that's states exhibit 4A. That's the window we're talking about. And you can see through that window, there's some kind of lighting, like a yellowish light. What are we looking at there?
Probably a street light that's out on the street.
Okay. And is that, what does this window look out? What's the viewpoint from?
It's to their house there.
To the house of Nicole Nachtman?
Yeah.
All right, 4B, just a little more, what's the viewpoint? So that's,
That's the same window.
okay, so what we're looking at, what we're seeing across from outside that window is their house?
That's correct.
And that's the window you believe you saw a shadow run by after the shots. And was this after the scream? as
After
well?
the street.
States exhibit 1K. Would that be the area between these two houses?
That's correct.
And the window that you saw the figure run by, can you see that in this picture?
It's both of those windows.
Okay,
Photo of.
that one?
Yeah.
And then this one?
Yeah.
What room is that?
That's our living room.
And so after you heard the shots in the screen, you walk out into the living room, that's when you saw the figure run by?
Yes.
And to be clear, it was running in this direction,
That's
not that
correct.
direction?
Yeah.
you tell where these bangs in the screen were coming from?
It seemed like front of our house or somehow in the road in the front.
And you described these shots as coming around, you said 9:15?
Well, it could have been 9:15, could have been closer to 9:20. I'm not totally accurate at this point.
So after hearing these shots of scream,
Yep.
seeing the figure, what did you do at that point?
I was kind of second guessing myself, thinking, should I call 911? Should I not? And I decided to start calling 911. I was just going to call them, and if it was something not, they would just come out and figure out what had happened. So I got my cell phone and dialed 911.
Okay, I'm showing you this marked State's exhibit number 53 for identification. I'm asking you to take a look at that. Do you see any markings on that?
It has my initials and date.
Did you in fact listen to that audio?
Yes, I did.
And is that the exact CD you listened to?
Yep.
And does that audio fairly and accurately depict the 911 call you made that day?
Totally.
Okay. Judge, move that State's exhibit number 53 admitted into evidence.
No objection.
Move the publish, Your Honor.
Thursday, August 2025 and 43 seconds.
911 was emergency? No, it's not gonna be 911. Call back. Hi, sir, this is 911. We just off this number. Do you have an emergency?
Yes, I found a gunshot outside our house and I saw some screaming running.
Okay, what is the address of your emergency?
It's 14108 Cemetery Drive,
Okay,
in Florida.
is there a lot or an apartment number?
No, this is a house.
And you heard gunshots and screaming?
It sounded like gunshots.
How many gunshots did you hear?
It was 2 or 3.
Did you hear anything else after that, after the shot?
I heard somebody screaming, but somebody didn't.
Okay, did you know if it was a male or female that was running?
No, I can see it dark outside.
Okay, do you know if anyone was actually hit?
I don't know, I didn't go outside.
Okay, we have a call in, okay? What's your last name, sir?
Well, are we,
R-E, and your first name?
Leslie?
Is it L-E-Y?
Yes.
And is the 340349 the best number to reach you at?
Yes,
And how long ago did this happen?
about just 3 or 4 minutes ago.
And did you hear anything else, like people arguing, cars driving away fast?
No, no,
And you don't have a photo description on the person who ran away?
no, just saw somebody running outside.
Okay. Are you going to meet with the deputy?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, I'll let them know you're going to meet, okay? If you think of anything else, just give us a call back on 911, just don't hang up, okay? It always goes through even when you hang up.
Okay, so it's
Right,
going
that's very good. Better probably answer.
Okay. Okay, that's right, it's on my home phone too, so. you might have
Okay,
to call my home phone.
I'll look that up. What's your home phone number? Because it looks like there are two for that area.
I don't know if we don't use it very often. I can find out for you. Hold on a second, I'm getting my bill.
That's okay, we found it.
Okay, okay,
Okay? All right, thank you, sir. We already have a unit on the way, okay?
okay.
All right, thank you. Do you know which direction the person was running before we hang up?
Either look like they're running on the side of my yard, there's like a lake behind us.
So they're running for the lane behind your house?
Yes,
Do you know if that's north, south, east, or west?
that would be considered west.
Okay, all right, got it. We'll get, like I said, we're on the way.
Okay, thank
All
you.
right, thank you so much.
So, Mr. Rowe, I take it from that when you initially called 911, you eventually hung up?
Yes, because it kept ringing and ringing and ringing and ringing, and I was kind of panicking at that point, thinking, you dial 911, somebody's supposed to pick up, and thought something at some point was wrong with my cell phone, so I went to my home phone and tried dialing 911, and the same thing, exact same thing happened there as well. At that point, when it was ringing on the home phone, they called me back on my cell phone.
Okay, so that's what we hear at the beginning of that 911 call. That's kind of, okay. So after that 911 call, did you call them back again?
Yes, I did.
And why was that?
After I hung up from the 911 call, I went out to front of our house inside, and we have some windows there. And I was looking outside the windows to see when the deputies or the sheriffs would arrive. So as I was looking out there, I saw something in my driveway, at the bottom of my driveway. I couldn't figure out what it was at first. Couldn't picture what I was seeing because it was dark and there was some street lighting. And then I finally figured out what I was looking at were shoes, and I couldn't understand what are these shoes here. And I understood that there was also blue jeans, and I figured out that was a body, and it was facing towards the road. So at that point, I was really panicking, so I went and called 911 again from the cell.
Okay. Let me show you what Marcus State Exhibit number 1C. Can you see that? Sure.
Right, that's right.
And the picture 1C, previously been intrusive evidence. That's your driveway, correct?
That's correct.
And was that the body you saw down there when you decided to call 911?
Oh, I saw wear like blue jeans and shoes, so I
So,
really
so
think
you didn't see this portion, you just kind of saw that
Yeah,
portion?
and if you look to the left there, that's the window I would be looking out of.
Over here?
Yes,
But you could tell, you could at least tell though that it was a body.
yes.
Showing you what's been marked as state's exhibit.
He's got chubby cheeks.
Ask if you recognize that.
Mhm.
I didn't recognize
That
that.
has my initials in there.
Did you actually listen to what's on that report? And does that fairly and accurately depict the second 911 call?
Yes, it does.
All right, should move that state's exhibit number 50. And we publish it.
So fidgety. Can't stop burping. It's real pleasant, I'm sure.
Thursday, August 20, 2015, 21:33 and 34 seconds.
911, what is your emergency?
Yes, I called earlier about gunshots at my house, and it looks like I'm looking out the front door, it looks like somebody, at the end of our driveway got shot or something, they're like laying on the ground.
What is the address of the emergency?
14108 Fensbury Drive,
Can you spell the street name?
Fensbury, FENNSBURY Drive. Can we get a deputy here now?
Yes, sir, I'm trying to enter the new system. How long ago were the gunshots?
I don't know, I called earlier, about 4 minutes before I called earlier. I think a deputy's here now.
They are there, can you see them?
I think so. I don't want to go outside after I heard something. It looks like there might be something. I can't really tell. There might be a body on the ground out here.
Okay, bear with me while I'm entering this in, okay?
That'd be crazy, though.
Can you see out your window, deputy?
Yeah, I just see the deputy there. I think he's going to check the body.
Okay, is there anybody else around?
No, my daughter's inside the house.
Okay, no, I mean outside where they
I don't
are.
know. Should I go outside?
No, sir, you just keep yourself safe, okay? I'm not advising you to do anything, you just keep yourself safe. I'm just wondering what you can see from your window.
I can see the deputy outside.
Is there only one?
Yeah.
All right, what's your first and last name, sir?
Dude, it's still.
Say your last name for me?
Early.
Okay, and your phone number you're calling me from?
813-340-3049.
All right, sir, I went ahead and updated the call, and we do have more deputies on the way out there to check everything out, okay?
Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Bye.
So after that second 911 call, sounds like the deputies arrived pretty quickly then?
Yes.
And did you speak to the deputy?
Shortly after that, more and more deputies started arriving, and a bunch of them came to my door and knocked on the door. It's the sheriff's department. I opened the door. They told me not to step out. They said, "Sir, please put your hands out first." I put my hands out first, and they said, "Come out slowly. Keep your hands up." Came out, and I told them I'm basically the person that called 911, and they asked if they could come into the house and search the house. I said, "That's fine."
Well, that doesn't mean you're not the one that shot
Well,
the person.
so a bunch of them came in the house and kind of swarmed out. I went with one of the deputies to where my stepdaughter was. She was in our bedroom in the closet. So
And you didn't ask her to go into that.
yeah, I had asked her to go in that closet. Yes.
Going back to earlier in the day, had you seen the defendant around the house?
I did around 7 o'clock or so. I saw her outside the house,
Okay, and where did you see her? Was it in front of the house, side of the
the
house?
side of the house, outside that window that you showed me earlier.
Okay, with the window from your living room window.
Living room window, yes.
And where was she? What was she doing?
There's a window that's joining there. She was opening it from the outside, which I thought was kind of weird, and putting like books or notebooks in there. So the window was kind of propped open. And then when she put her books or notebooks in there, she just walked up to the front and left the window kind of open.
And this was around 7 p.m. You said?
Around 7, but then a little bit after.
I'm gonna show you some photos. and ask you
Puppies
if
are
you
weird, guys.
Show the window. that
Puppies
you
are
saw her,
weird.
cropping up. And this is State's Exhibit 1K. Does that show the window?
Yes, it does.
Okay, and since we know already this is your house, I
Yeah.
take it that the window would be this window here?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, and you saw her from this window?
No, that window, yes.
And that, what books was she, could you tell what books?
I don't know, they were just looked like books and folders.
And after she left that window, you said she went towards the front of the house?
Yes.
Did you see whether she went back in the house or whether she stayed outside or what she did?
No.
Prior to hearing those gunshots, did you hear any arguments, any yelling, anything, any loud raised voices?
No.
Since you lived there with the Deans living next door to you, had you ever heard any loud yelling, any raised voices coming from the arguments? Any... Just find me one moment.
Yes.
Judge, pass the witness.
Good morning, Ms. Rowe, how are you?
Good.
At the time of August of 2015, how long had the Dean's family and Nicole Nachtman lived next door to you?
A few years at that point.
Do you recall, I mean, a
Two
few,
or three.
two or three?
2 or 3.
Okay, 2 or 3 years. And I know we've seen a lot of pictures that you're describing of where you were
Mhm.
in different times. So the room that you and your stepdaughter were in when you heard the pops,
Mhm.
is that room towards the back of your house?
That's correct.
And is it one of the rooms at the furthest back of the house?
Yes.
And how far is it from that room? Just, I know you're gonna probably have to guesstimate. How many feet is it from that room out to the outside driveway of your home? Just a guesstimate.
800 feet. I don't know.
800 feet?
Could be a lot more. I don't know. Anyway,
And when you're there in that room, do you normally hear cars that are coming or going in anywhere?
you can almost kind of hear like people closing doors or opening car doors, but cars moving around now.
So if someone's close by and they slam their door, you're gonna hear that, but the normal movement of traffic, you really can't hear that from
No.
inside that room, is that correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated that you used to see Bob, Mr. Deans,
Mhm.
outside working on the house with these guys, correct?
That's correct.
How often would you see Mr. Deans in any given week, for those 2 or 3 years?
For a week, maybe 3 or 4 times a week. He would just be there almost every few days.
What about Miriam Deans? How often would you see her in a given week?
Not very often, I would say. Her.
The 2 or 3 years that the Deans family lived there, you became aware at some point in time that Nicole Nachtman had actually gone to Tallahassee to start school, correct?
That's correct.
And that probably would have been in about 2013. Does that sound correct? to
Could
you?
have been. I don't totally remember.
How often would you see Nicole Nachtman in any given week in, let's say, the first year that they moved into that house? How often would you see her?
I don't recall, at this point, seeing her very often.
What about the summer of 2015, that entire year? How often would you see her on any given week until the summer?
I would see her running in our neighborhood, so I would see her there. Or else I would see her walking to her car if I was driving in.
And did she in any way interact with you whatsoever?
No.
And did you attempt to interact with her in any way whatsoever? Would you interact with Miriam Deans when you saw Miriam?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, you described Nicole Nachtman really as a strange type of individual,
She
correct?
seemed strange or to herself.
And as it relates to August the 20th, I know we listened to the 911 call where you indicated you heard 2 or 3 shots. When you were telling us about the shots today here in the courtroom, you indicated that you felt there was a pause between one shot and then the remaining, one pop and the remaining pops. That pause, how long was the pause?
Could have been a second or two.
And you indicated again that you didn't hear any arguing prior to the shots, correct?
That's correct.
Let me ask you this. Usually when you're in your home, do you hear conversations that are happening outside of your home by people that are maybe walking by?
No, I can hear somebody if they're back by that lake, but typically not. Or if somebody's like in our, cul-de-sac area, I can kind of hear them a little bit.
Can you make out conversations that are happening or do you just hear noise?
I just hear noise or somebody speaking.
But you're not gonna be able to articulate the conversations that are occurring?
No.
The room that you saw Nicole Nachtman approaching and opening the door, based on your knowledge of the house, the Dean's home, that's a window to Nicole Nachtman's room, is that correct? Or at least the room you would see her in.
I would see her in there. I always thought that was her room. I hadn't been in the house there to know that exactly.
It didn't appear to be a room where you would see Miriam Deans and Nicole Nachtman and Bob Deans getting together and hanging out.
The only
Is that
time
right?
we've seen, we had no. Only time I've seen Nicole in there.
And the Dean's home has a pool, is that correct?
That's correct.
How often in the 2 to 3 years that the Deans family lived there, did you see Miriam Deans and Bob Deans and Nicole Nachtman in that pool area enjoying themselves, enjoying the pool?
I don't recall any time, but I wouldn't be like going back out there to look.
But as you've indicated, you can hear noises and you can hear sounds. I mean, you would have heard if somebody was out there hanging out and enjoying themselves and having a party, things like that.
Yeah, that's correct.
Would you have occasion over the 2 or 3 years that Miss Nachtman and the Deans family lived in that home to ever have seen friends of Nicole's coming or going, or what you would perceive would be friends because they were young, like she was?
No, but I think I remember seeing her stepbrother there at times.
Talking about friends, like
Okay.
for instance, like your stepdaughter. She
Yeah.
has friends that come and go, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. You never saw that in relations to the Dean's home, is that
No.
correct? And did you know any of the family of Miriam Deans or Bob Deans at all? Did you know them?
Just I knew Miriam had a son.
That you would see come and visit
Yes.
every so often?
Yes.
Maybe around the holiday season?
Holidays. Yeah.
I tell you what,
And just so that
Kids
I
ask
understand,
for
you know that
dogs,
you're looking out.
and they
where you see
say,
the shadow.
"Oh, I'll take care
Is
of
that
them,"
your living room area?
and then they don't want to
Your
take
living room
care of
Also
them.
towards the back of the house?
I would say mid of the house.
the mid-house?
Yeah.
And the shadow that you saw running, at what point can you see that shadow coming? Because I think Mr. Terry had you say that you saw the shadow coming from the driveway too. At what point did you really see that shadow?
Just when it passed the window.
So where that shadow was coming from, you really can't tell us here today, is that correct?
It seemed to be coming from the front.
Somewhere from the front of the house, but not necessarily the Dean's driveway or yours?
Yeah.
During the time periods that you would see Nicole Nachtman around the Dean's home, did you ever see her interacting with Bob Deans at all outside, helping to paint the house, helping to plan a plan, helping her do anything?
No.
If I understood you correctly, Elizabeth, which testified yesterday, she's your stepdaughter, and how long have you been her stepmom?
Since she was like 2.5, 3.
And would it be fair to say that you were talking to her that night because you were interested in the fact that she had been to orientation?
That's correct.
And you were interested in what she had seen and heard and learned about?
Yeah.
You seem to have a close relationship with your stepdaughter, is
Yes.
that correct? And you don't refer to her as your stepdaughter.
I
you
don't.
refer to her as your daughter, correct?
Yeah. Formerly here, I would refer to her as stepdaughter, but anywhere else, I would refer to her as my daughter.
And there was also, did you ever know of any occasion where your daughter interacted with Nicole Nachtman at all?
Yes.
And what was that occasion?
When they first moved in, Nicole went trick-or-treating with us.
And during that trick-or-treating, do you recall that Nicole Nachtman was asking for vegetables instead of candy, or were you even involved in that closely?
I wasn't involved that closely.
You did, however, think it was kind of strange that at her age that she went trick-or-treating with someone that was so significantly much younger than she was. Is
Yeah.
that correct?
My daughter was in middle school, and I think at the time she was in high school, a junior, or maybe even a senior.
And the position of the body, which obviously I hate to refer to the body.
That's way too old to be going trick or treating.
When you're looking out there and seeing what you are observing, to you, the manner in which that Mrs. Dean was facing is as if she was running towards the road. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you indicated that you saw Nicole Nachtman at about 7 o'clock, and this is on August 20th.
That's right.
And when you came home, you also observed that both Bob's car and Nicole's car were there at the Dean's residence. Is that
That's
correct?
correct.
And I had this one moment.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
Oh, you know what, Judge? I'm sorry. One more question. Let me ask you to look at what I'm going to have identified for the record as Defense Exhibit 1A, and ask you if you can, just to yourself right now, recognize what that depicts. Is it a fair and accurate depiction of what the home of the Dean's family would look like
That's
during the daytime hours?
Okay.
Judge, I'd like to move at this time Defense Exhibit 1A into evidence. And Mr. Roddy, I'm going to just ask you one question, and that is in the sense of in that particular picture, would this be the window that you were saying that you saw Nicole Nachtman at?
Yes,
She
sir.
open?
Yeah.
And propped open, left propped open,
Yes.
she had put in some books
Yep.
and some folders. Thank you very much, Judge. I'm done.
All right. Any redirect?
No.
May this witness be excused by the state?
No.
And by the defense?
Absolutely.
All right, thank you, sir. May step down. You may be excused as a witness at this time.
Thank you.
I'll ask the state to call your next witness.
Detective Michael Peaslap.
Detective Peaslap. Detective Peaslap, good morning and welcome. If you'll raise your right hand and be sworn, thank you. Do you swear from any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you, Detective. If you'll follow Dale's round of the ramp that leads up to the witness chair, please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat, make yourself comfortable. That microphone is adjusted. You may proceed.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
Please state your full name and spell your last name for the record.
Detective Michael Peaslak. It's Pecyklak.
Thank you. Are you employed?
I am.
Where do you work?
Peace
Middleton
like.
Sheriff's Office.
How long have you been employed with the sheriff's office?
A little over 6 years.
And in what position were you working in August of 2015 with the sheriff's office?
I was working as a patrol deputy assigned to District 3, which is the west side of Hillsborough County.
And if you could generally tell us what a patrol deputy's duties are.
We respond to anything from 911 calls to suspicious incidents. Basically, anytime you call 911 have a report of anything, that's usually going as a patrol deputy.
And in August of 2015, what shift or hours were you working?
I was working 7 p.m. to 7 a.m.
I want to turn your attention specifically to August 20th of 2015. Do you recall responding to a call on Fensbury Drive, Bennington?
I do.
Do you recall approximately what time that call came in?
I was dispatched at 9:28 p.m.
How far away were you from the scene when you received the call from dispatch?
I would have been fairly close, but not too close. It took me about 7 minutes to get on scene.
And about what time did you respond, if you recall?
I responded at 9:28 and I arrived on scene at 9:35 p.m.
Were you the first law enforcement officer to respond to that scene?
I was.
And what was the actual address that you responded to?
It was 14108. It was a numerical.
Fensbury.
Fensbury Drive, correct.
What did you see when you first arrived on scene?
When I first pulled in, the Fensbury Drive, the south end of it is a cul-de-sac. So I parked outside the cul-de-sac, and immediately upon looking in the cul-de-sac, I saw a white female, excuse me, white female body laying in the driveway of 14108 Fensbury Drive.
Did you see anything else around the female?
No, there was nothing, no one moving. It was kind of eerie.
As you approached that cul-de-sac that you described and then approached and got to the position to park your vehicle, do you recall seeing anybody running from that scene?
I did not see anything moving, no one running.
No one walking down the road or any close by streets, anything like that?
No, ma'am, no one running.
Do you recall seeing any cars driving fast away from that area?
I did not see any vehicles.
And did you see anyone standing outside their home?
No, no, ma'am.
At approximately 9:35 at night when you were called, when you responded, tell us what the lighting was like in that area.
The cul-de-sac has a pretty decent lighting for the area. There's a couple streetlights around there, so it was cool. It was pretty well illuminated.
Okay. And the female body that you described, I believe you indicated you could see blood.
Yes, ma'am.
What position was the body in?
The body was towards the end of the driveway. The head, upper body of the area was closer to the roadway itself, while the feet were pointed up towards the garage of the residence, towards closer up on the driveway itself.
So after you parked your vehicle, do you go straight to this female?
I do.
Did you see any movement at all from the female?
No, ma'am.
Did you make attempts to determine if she was still alive or if you could do any life-saving measures?
I did. I put a glove on my right hand and I went to feel for a pulse on her neck, but was not able to feel for a pulse.
Did you call for EMS?
I did.
Medical services?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you felt that there was no pulse coming from her neck, did you yourself perform any life-saving measures?
I did not.
What observations did you make at that point once you're standing close to the body?
So at that point, as I was standing close to the body, I observed a casing, a bullet casing, just next to her head, down towards the roadway itself.
Did you move it?
I did not.
Did you move the body at all in any way?
I did not move the body, no.
Were you present when EMS did respond to attempting efforts on the body, the female body?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And did you give them any instructions regarding attempting any life-saving efforts?
I advised EMS that I could not feel for a pulse, and to go ahead and see if they could feel for one. So they went ahead and hooked her up with what they call leads. It's the sticky things that they put on you to feel for heart rate detection. And I just advised them that it's to not move the body.
Okay. The shell casing that you advised that you observed, did you put any kind of a marker near it to indicate that that could have been a potential piece of evidence?
I did.
And what was that marking?
In my car, I have little rubber orange triangles. So I placed an orange triangle next to the casing.
Okay. What's the next thing you did?
After that, I was instructed to begin a neighborhood survey.
At that point, prior to beginning the neighborhood survey, are other units, other law enforcement arriving on scene,
Yes, ma'am. There are multiple other units arriving on scene.
including supervisors?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us, what is a neighborhood survey?
A neighborhood survey is something we'll conduct on both in-progress crimes and delayed crimes. For example, if I go to your house for a burglary, I'll go ahead and talk to the neighbors. It depends on the housing situations of the residents, but I will talk to 2 to 3 houses down from the crime scene on each side across the street. I'm looking for stuff like a witness that saw a suspicious vehicle, cameras, instances, stuff like that. So I went ahead and began going around to the whole cul-de-sac.
What house did you go to first? And let me first say, you've already indicated to us that this address that you respond to is 14108 Fensbury. So tell us from that, what house do you go to first?
So from that house, we decided, myself and another supervisor decided to check on the occupants of the residents at that location. So we went and knocked on the door where I came in contact with, I believe, Mr. Rowe is his name, and asked if we could search his house.
And did Mr. Rowe allow you to?
He did.
And tell us about this search. Is this a thorough search? Are you moving items, collecting items? Tell us what kind of search this is.
No, ma'am, this is a quick search to find if we have an active shooter somewhere.
When you went inside your residence, did you observe anything of potential evidentiary value or anything to raise your suspicion?
I did not, ma'am.
Did you speak to Mr. Rowe at that point?
It would have been briefly, hey, can we come here and search? You know, did you see anything else? Very briefly.
What did you do next?
From there, I began the actual neighborhood survey, and I worked in a counterclockwise direction. So the next house I went to was 14106 Fensbury Drive.
Did you speak to residents at that address?
I did.
And anything, did you search that home?
I did not.
Anything about your conversation with those residents that led you to conduct any further search?
No. there was
It's
nothing.
part of the trials that I don't like. Get into the juicy stuff.
Next one would have been 14104.
That stuff is
Fensbury Drive.
boring.
Did you speak to residents at that address?
There was no one home when I knocked on the door.
And next.
Next was 14102 Fensbury Drive.
And same thing at that home, were you able to speak to residents?
Yes, I spoke to someone very briefly.
And anything about that conversation did you raise your suspicion in any way?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so what did you do next?
From there, 14102 is the last house on the cul-de-sac. I jumped across the street, which is 14110 Fensbury Drive, which would have been to the right if you're looking at 14108 where the body was. If you're looking at the right, it's the house directly to the right.
I'm going to show you some photographs that have already been entered into evidence. Showing you State Exhibit 1C, if you look at the monitor. Do you recognize this?
I do.
And the home that we see primarily in this photograph where the body is this the residence that you first went to, 14108?
Yes, ma'am, it is.
And is this what you recall seeing regarding the body when you arrived on scene?
It is, ma'am.
And in this photograph, we can see several orange markers surrounding the body. Where would be the marker or near these markers that you placed the marker you described getting from your car?
So the marker I described was the one on the roadway, and you can see it kind of blurring here, but just below the orange circular there's an orange triangle, and that would have been my marker.
Okay, and you're referring to, I believe, a very small orange dot that's right just south of that bigger orange marker. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And is that where you said that you recall observing the shell casing?
Correct, and I put that down just so no one else would step on it, just a quick marker.
As other units arrive on scene?
Yes.
How's there showcasing by the body in the driveway?
So tell us what happened when you respond to 14110.
I walk up to the house, nothing appears out of the ordinary. I went to go knock on the door, and when I knocked on the door swung open, which led me to believe that the door's never secured.
Okay, so when you say the door swung open, was the door actually latched closed?
No, ma'am.
Was it sort of slightly ajar?
Correct.
When you say knock, are you just knocking traditionally on the front of the door?
I wasn't banging or anything, I was just knocking in enough that it began to swing open.
Okay. What happened at that point?
At that point, I alerted the other deputies and supervisors on scene that I had an open door, and they all came over. There was about 5 of us, I believe.
Are you all sort of right outside the door at this point?
We are.
Are you, at that point, do you begin giving commands or making loud statements to anyone potentially inside that home?
I do. These are for any open door we go to, if it's an alarm call or not, we're gonna give our presence. So if someone's inside, we want them to come out. If I'm going to any kind of alarms or open doors of anything, I'll say sheriff's office, come out now, sheriff's office, I'll give them 3 to 5 loud commands.
And is that what you were doing?
Yes, ma'am.
Were the other 5 or so members that you said you were with, or was everyone also doing that?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you hear any response from these commands?
No, ma'am.
So what happens at that point?
At that point, we decide to go into the residence, fearing for anyone else that's either injured or any kind of active shooters within the residence.
Okay. Was a supervisor on scene with you to make the decision to go inside?
Yes, ma'am. There were several supervisors.
So what happens when you go inside?
When we go inside, like I said, there are approximately 5 deputies. So what we'll do for clearing a house is we'll hold certain areas and continue through with other areas. You never want to be caught in any kind of specific area that's going to result in me being injured with such as a fatal tunnel, which is the entering of the hallway. So me and the supervisor went up to into the house, and to the right is a bedroom. We went cleared that house, cleared the bedroom, while the other units kind of held the house. Once we come out of the bedroom, then we'll go ahead and go on with the next house. It's essentially leapfrogging for the most part.
Okay. And during this process, are you looking?
Leapfrogging?
No. We're looking for someone that's injured or an active shooter.
Okay. Are you collecting any items as you're going?
I'm not.
Okay. So when you go inside this home, tell us what you observe when you go inside the home itself.
The home appeared semi-neat. Once we cleared the first bedroom and began towards the kitchen, I observed the TV to be on. I can't recall if it was either playing something or pause, but the TV was on, and there was a bag of potato chips out on the couch.
Were lights on inside the home?
There were lights on, yes.
In multiple rooms, areas of the home?
Yes, the house was well lit.
Okay. During the time that you're sort of doing this sweep through the house that you described, are you all continuing to give verbal commands and announce your presence?
We are.
At any point, do you see anyone inside the residence?
I do not.
Do you hear anyone inside the
I do
residence?
not.
Do you recall as you're going through the residence seeing any weapons?
I do not.
Do you recall seeing any blood anywhere?
No.
So as you're doing this sweep through the house, I guess tell us if you do discover anything alarming or concerning.
So as the deputies moved through the house, another deputy or supervisor encountered a locked bedroom door towards the kind of the rear of the house.
What happened at that point?
So at that point, we decided whether we had it would have to be locked on the inside. So at that point, we're thinking we might have a barricaded subject. At that point, one of the other supervisors on the team used to be on the SWAT team for several years, so he began to take command of the situation. Because if it was a barricaded subject and it was involved in shooting, it would be something that SWAT would end up actually responding on to.
No need to ask.
No need to ask, he says. Such a cool
Detective, if you
judge.
could take a look at what's been pre-marked as States Exhibit 6A through G for identification purposes and let us know if you recognize those.
I do.
And are these photos a fair and accurate depiction of your observations of the interior of the residence on that day, August 20th of 2015?
They are.
Your Honor, this time I'd ask for the evidence States Exhibit 6A through G. No objection.
Go ahead.
And ask for permission to publish.
You may call.
Tell us, Detective, what do we see here in States Exhibit 6A?
So this is the front of the house. The front door would be in the middle of the residence.
They're about to find stepdaddy.
14110 Fensbury, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so right here in the middle, is this the front door that you have already described to us that you encountered as slightly ajar?
Yes, ma'am.
States Exhibit 6B. This is also that same front door.
That is the front door. Yes, ma'am.
States Exhibit 6C. What is this photograph of?
That's the front entryway.
As you walk in, and this is the front door that we see here on the left side?
Correct.
The items that we see here in this photograph, it appears to be like a pet food dish and a shoe. Is that how you recall it being when you went into the home?
I can't recall if those items were there.
6D.
Yes, this is as you continue in the front of the house. I believe would be a little living room.
6E. Another photograph of that same living room.
Yes, ma'am.
6F. The other side of that same living room.
Correct.
And States Exhibit 6G. What do you recall this being?
So that's the front door that we came into, and when I said that, you know, those guys were clearing and holding something, we went to the right and began clearing. I believe it was the bedroom. The very left side door is going to be a bedroom, and I don't recall what the second door was, but that's what we were clearing.
Okay, so and for the record, I believe you described this, the furthest left door indicated in state 6G. This is the bedroom that you went towards doors there, that's right.
Correct, that's what I went into first.
The bedroom where you encountered a locked door, is that depicted in these photographs?
It is not.
Is that on sort of another area of the home?
It's towards the back of the home.
So tell us what happens when you all encounter this locked door, what do you do?
So once we encountered the locked door, the supervisor began making a decision whether it needs to be breached. At that time, I was instructed to go outside of the house and begin securing the rear of the residence in case anyone would try to get out of that bedroom door or the kitchen area.
Did you take any part in entering that room at any point?
No, ma'am,
Once you exited the residence and began to sort of protect the rear of the home, did you ever re-enter the home?
I did not.
Oh, nope, he's done.
What do you do then for the remainder of the time while you're outside of the residence?
When I was instructed to go outside, the residence has a fence and shrubs that surround it. The shrubs are very tall. So myself and another deputy brought a patrol car up over the grass, basically right up next to the fence, where we got on the hood of the car and were able to see over the fence and into the area where the kitchen sliders are, and you could see the rear of the residence and kind of inside the residence.
And did you then remain outside the home for the rest of your time?
I was there for about an hour before the decision was made to breach the door, and after that, I began a crime scene log.
Tell us what crime you did.
A crime scene log is a log of everyone that comes into the crime scene, the time that they came in and the time they left.
Okay, and at this point, when you say a crime scene log, is it safe to assume that the crime scene is now taped off from any civilians entering or exiting that scene? Is it only law enforcement then entering and exiting that scene?
Yes, law enforcement, medical examiners, detectives.
And are you documenting exactly who goes in and out of that taped off crime scene?
Yes, ma'am.
How long were you maintaining that crime scene for?
I was there from 9:35 from when I got there till the next morning, I believe like 7:30 a.m. I was there all night.
This area that you described for us that you responded to, is that located in Hillsborough County?
It is.
Can I have just a moment?
Yeah.
I'll pass it.
Forgive me.
Good morning.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
All right.
You indicated that you laid a marker where you saw one shell casing, and that was towards the street area in front of Steve, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
The question is, how far away from the actual head of Steve's was that shell casing?
3 feet maybe.
You also indicated that you went to different locations, so today, do you recall who it was you spoke to at 14106 Pennsbury?
I don't believe I got a name. It was just a quick interview.
But you did talk to someone and ask them if they had seen or heard anything, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And at 14106, you said that there was no answer, so you're not, if I understood correctly?
14106 had an answer. 14104 did not have an answer.
And 14102 did have an answer, and you also spoke to those individuals, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And again, you would have asked them, did you see anything or did you hear anything, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you recall the name of that residence there?
I do not.
When you indicated that as you, well, in having you authenticate photographs that were introduced with no objection from the defense, 6A through G, you indicated that these were fair and accurate representations of what you saw as you approached the house as well as you went through the house. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And what that would mean then is that these photographs are intended to show exactly how the house was when you went in, correct?
Correct.
You would have no reason to believe that any of the things, the items that are on the floor, or the items that are on the couch, or the way that the house looks, was changed in any way from the time you went into the home and these photographs were taken.
Correct.
And the room that you actually went into, and in order to clear it, did you have an impression of whether that was a master bedroom, if that was a child's room, a young person's room? Did you have any impression?
I did not. I just remember being in the bedroom.
Do you recall as you sit here today, could you describe anything about the room, such as whether or not the color of the comforter or anything of that sort?
No, ma'am.
Nothing that appeared to you to reflect that there was a king-size bed versus a queen-size bed versus a double bed, anything like that? None of that sounds familiar?
No, ma'am.
And so all you did was go in and clear it again, looking to see whether or not there was anyone there?
Yes, ma'am. Active shooters and injured parties.
And I believe that the photograph that you were shown indicated or seemed to indicate that there were 3 markers around Mrs. Dees. Is that correct?
Correct.
Did you place the other 2 markers around Mrs. Dees, the 2 orange markers?
No, that was Sergeant Park.
Did that happen in your presence?
I can't recall.
Do you recall whether or not you observed the other 2 markers and what they were marking at some point in time during that time? You were there from 9:35 until the next day.
At one point, I found out they were more shell casings.
Okay, there were 2 additional shell cases, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And having again looked at the photograph that depicts the 3 orange markers, are you in a position to tell us how far the other 2 shell casings were from Mrs. Dees?
Within feet. I can't testify to the exact measurements of them, but they weren't far away.
And you're indicating that as you went through the house initially, the very first initial, what you're calling breach into the home, because you're looking for perhaps an active shooter or anything that would help. How long were you actually in the house?
I want to say anywhere between 5 and 10 minutes is a brief time.
And who was with you as you made entry into the home?
It was Sergeant Carr, Sergeant Collado, Deputy Robbins, Deputy Rizzo, and Deputy Gibson.
And at the time that you were entering the home, who was it that you would have identified as the supervising individual?
The 2 supervisors would have been Sergeant Collado and Sergeant Carr. usually in instances like this, Sergeant Carr would take over just due to the fact that, like I said, he was on SWAT for numerous amount of years.
And you also indicated that you were outside when the emergency medical services individuals arrived, correct?
Correct.
And you indicated that they placed leads on Mrs. D's. You recall where on Mrs. D they placed those leads?
I can remember that one that was on an elbow, and that was all that I can remember.
And is that from an independent memory or from a photograph that you made?
Photograph.
Something that you might have seen within the last few days,
Yes.
a couple weeks, something like that. You indicated that you told EMS personnel not to move the body. Did they have to manipulate the body in any way whatsoever in order to attach the leads to what would have been appropriate spots to see if they could in some way provide you for medical services?
I can't specify whether where they're supposed to be. I know they're usually on the chest, but like I advised, I said to try not to move the body because at that time I believe she was deceased and they also believe she was dead.
All right, so having told them, please don't move the body, that means please don't roll the body over, for instance.
Correct.
However, there was a manipulation of the body to some extent to attach the leads, correct?
Yes, if they touch the body by placing the leads on it.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Honor.
Redirect. This would be excused by the state.
Yes, sir.
And by the defense. Thank you, Jackie. Make that down. You may be excused as a witness in this matter. Thank you. During different though, calling this and then more than an hour, we're gonna go ahead and take our morning break. We'll just take a 15-minute break. And we'll back there. So many of you, please not discuss the case.
That was fun.
Jury's present, seated. Everybody else may be seated.
On to the next
The plan
one.
is to break for lunch today, approximately between 12 and 12:15. So that would put you in the courtroom would have been for a little over an hour before our lunch break. State ready to call your next witness?
Yes, sir.
I wonder what the jury gets for lunch. Who you be?
Lieutenant Clark, good morning. Thank you. Do you swear affirming testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God? Yes, sir. Thank you, Lieutenant. You'll follow the bailiff around to the ramp that leads up to the witness.
How are you?
Please watch your step.
Lieutenant
You can get to the chair, but it has to be so
Carr.
comfortable that microphone is adjustable.
Sir.
Good morning.
Morning.
Who are
Thank you.
you?
Spell your last name for the record.
Robert Scott Carr, CARR.
Thank you. Are you employed?
Yes, ma'am.
Where do you work?
Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office,
How long have you worked for the sheriff's office?
approximately 17 years.
And in what position with the sheriff's office?
I love watching
How
it
was the supervisor?
fast.
I was a sergeant assigned to a patrol squad.
Okay. Is a sergeant a supervisory position?
Yes, it is.
I want to turn your attention specifically to August the 20th of 2015. Do you recall responding to a call that evening on Fence Ferry Drive?
I do.
Approximately what time did you arrive?
Approximately 21-40 hours.
About 9:40 p.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
When you arrived on scene that night, were other law enforcement officers from the sheriff's office already present?
There was.
Do you recall if you were the first supervisor to respond to the
I
scene?
don't recall.
What was going on at the time that you arrived at 9:40 p.m.?
At the time, I know the deputies have already arrived, and we did see a female laying in the driveway. And from that point on, that's when other deputies were going around checking other residents to make sure that there were no other injuries. Pretty much conducting welfare checks and neighborhood surveys.
At the time that you arrived on scene, had any entry yet been made into the residence at 14110?
No.
So tell us what you did when you first arrived on scene.
When I first arrived on scene, I did approach the female laying in the driveway. I did observe that she didn't have some sort of trauma based on the blood near her head. And the call initially came out
That
as
would be a
shot
good
fire, so
indication, I
was
would
looking
think.
for shell casings that could be in the area, which there were two located that I did locate near her feet, which were marked after that. And while I was doing that, that is when other deputies were going door to door, checking on the welfare of all the other neighbors. And that's when I learned that there was a door open, lights were on, and nobody was coming to the door that was directly to the right side of where the body was laying at.
I'm going to show you on your monitor there some photographs that have already been introduced into evidence. Show you State's Exhibit 1C. Do you recognize this?
Yes, I do.
And what do you recall about this that you recognize?
Yes, I do.
That, you see the two cones behind or closest to the residence where her feet are at? Those are the two casings that I located. Directly to the right of it is the house where the deputies were conducting a neighborhood survey, where the door was open, the lights were on, there was no answer at that residence.
So if I could zoom in a little bit here, in this photograph, we see 3 orange markers. I believe you indicated that the 2 orange markers that are south of the female body's feet in the driveway, these are the 2 orange markers that you placed. Is that correct?
Yes,
To indicate, and what were those markers indicating?
spent shell casings.
Okay. Do you recall personally observing those shell casings?
Yes, I do.
Did you test them in any way?
No, ma'am.
Move them or collect them?
No, I did not.
And I believe you were just telling us that this residence that we see on the right edge of the photograph is the residence at 14110 that you went to where the door was slightly open. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So what happens when you approach that residence and the door is slightly open? What do you do?
I did get permission for the deputies that were there knocking and announcing their presence to go ahead and enter the residence, just to conduct a welfare check, to see if there anybody inside that may be injured.
Okay. And when you say you got permission, is this from calling other supervisors?
No, I made the decision
Okay.
at that time.
At that time, you were one of the supervisors on scene.
Yes,
Prior to entering the residence, did you all make attempts to call out to see if anyone was inside?
yes, several times.
And did you receive any response?
No, ma'am.
So tell us why you made the decision to go into that residence.
Based on the initial call coming out, shots being fired, and there's a female laying in the driveway next door that's deceased, and the door's open, lights are on, not getting an answer. You know, the safety of human life is our priority, so we want to make sure that everybody's okay.
So what happens when you go inside the residence? What do you observe in the residence?
I didn't go in initially. Other deputies did go inside.
Okay.
And as they were inside, they told me,
No, let me ask you this. You said other deputies go inside. What is the time period between other deputies go inside and you actually entering?
a minute or two.
So tell us what happens when you enter the residence about a minute or two later.
I initially went in based on the information given to me that there was a door that we thought to believe went into a bedroom that was locked, and they couldn't gain access, so I went to assist.
What do you observe inside the home prior to reaching that door? Tell us what you see in the home.
When I went in to the left, kitchen table, there's a purse, a set of keys laying on the table. As I kept walking toward the back of the residence, in the living room, the TV was on. It appeared that it could have been a movie that was on pause. There was a bag of, I don't know what type of potato
Hey, the
chips
other guy said
in the
that.
recliner, as if somebody was sitting there watching the movie.
So somebody was watching TV. Her mom came home
Did you hear anyone inside the
I
home?
didn't-
and she said, "Okay,
Okay, and I guess I should
now
say,
I
did you
must
see any
kill her."
live people inside the home?
No.
So tell us what happens when you go inside regarding this locked or closed door.
Not knowing who's inside, if anybody, did find a screwdriver to try to defeat the locking mechanism, to unlock the door to get inside.
Prior to going inside that door, do you go inside the door immediately?
No.
Tell us what's going on prior to entering that door.
Customary, if you don't know what's on the other side of the door, you want to make sure you maintain coverage if there is somebody inside that, is not friendly. So we're maintaining coverage until we decide to actually open that door that's locked. And until we decided to do it, we just held our position.
Okay, so when you say maintaining coverage, what do you mean? Where are deputies going to sort of protect everyone, residents, law enforcement, that sort of thing?
The ones that are inside, there's a small hallway actually that was leading up to the locked bedroom. There was a deputy in one of the bedrooms that was open. And at one point I did go in that room as well, backing up prior to going into that room. And on the other side of the wall where the recliner was in the living room, just to the right of the door. We're not going to stand right in front of the door.
About how long are you all outside this room before you actually make entry?
20, 30 minutes.
Okay, and what are you doing during those 20 to 30 minutes other than maintaining coverage as you described?
Maintaining coverage, I was passing on the information to the higher chain of command that was there of what I saw, what I smelled. I did detect an odor of a decomposing body, not until I got right close to the door, but I did smell a foul odor, and that's what was sparking my curiosity.
Prior to smelling that in these 20 to 30 minutes, are you also giving verbal commands to anyone who may be in that room?
Yes,
To come out,
Yes, ma'am.
that sort of thing?
yes,
Okay, and did you ever get any response?
no, I did not.
Tell us, what background or experience do you have that led you to believe that you smelled what was decaying or decomposing body?
What experience do I have?
Well, or your background at the sheriff's office?
17 years, and a lot of that time working on patrol as a supervisor. There's a lot of times we have done calls for service where there have been bodies that have been deceased for quite a few days, and when you smell that one time,
You know, yeah,
And you said
most
you were able to
cops
smell this when you were
is
right
usually that does
yes,
the
I
answer.
did smell it right when I went in the house.
outside, right, but not until you got close to that door.
Correct.
Once
So
you
after that 20
smell
to 30
it, you
minutes,
know
the
what
decision
it
was made
smells
to enter,
like.
is that correct?
Yes,
And I believe you said earlier you used some sort of a screwdriver to enter the room, is that correct?
Mhm.
Tell us what happens when you enter that room.
as I was able to get the door open in from left to right, I immediately on the floor saw a comforter that was covering up, not knowing exactly what it was at the time. A few seconds later, I could see a gap at the bottom of the comforter near the door, and it looked like a human toe that was sticking out from underneath there.
What did you do at that point?
Oh, what?
I grabbed a piece of that comforter and slowly pulled it back down toward his waist. That's when I saw that there was a deceased gentleman laying on his back.
Okay, other than pulling the comforter back to confirm the appearance of a deceased body, did you move anything else in any way?
No, ma'am.
Move the body in any way?
No, ma'am.
Did you flip it over, anything like that?
No, ma'am.
Was it clear when you pulled that comforter back that the gentleman was deceased?
It was clear.
Could you see injuries?
I saw a little bit of blood near his mouth, but I couldn't see any specific trauma.
No other clear
Jesus.
bullet hole or anything like that that you
No,
could see?
ma'am.
And tell us what it was about him that indicated to you that he was clearly deceased.
Sculler.
Huh?
At that point, when you make this observation, what do you then do?
Back out of the room, as Deputy Rizzo, I believe, standing outside the door, I told him to maintain where he was at, not touch anything, and went out there and revealed my findings.
At that point, by the time you went outside, were other detectives or law enforcement on scene?
Yes,
So was the information then passed along to other detectives who may have been at that point assigned to handle what were now apparently homicides?
yes.
Lieutenant, I'm showing you what's been pre-marked as State's Exhibit 15A through F for identification. If you could take a look at those photographs and let me know if you generally recognize the things in the photographs.
Yes, Yes, I do.
Okay. Are these photographs a fair and accurate depiction of your observations of that door and room that you described observing on August 20th of 2015?
Yes, ma'am.
Without objection, I'd ask to move the evidence, State's Exhibit 15A through F.
Any objection?
No objection.
There'll be a minute.
Ask for permission to publish.
You may publish.
Showing you State's Exhibit 15A. What is this?
It's the hallway leading into the bedroom that was initially locked, where the gentleman was found underneath the comforter.
Okay. The door that we see here on the right-hand side in the photograph, is this the door that you ultimately reached?
Yes, ma'am.
The door that was originally closed when you went in?
Yes.
This white throughout, where was that when you first went into that room?
That was completely inside, covering the entire body except his toe.
Going back to State's Exhibit 15A. Do you see the toe in this photograph?
Not clearly.
Do you recall can you see it at all from where you're angled there?
I have an idea what it is, but it's not clear on the
Okay.
screen, ma'am.
That's fine. State's Exhibit 15C.
That doesn't clarify the last picture.
All right, tell us what we see in this picture.
The gentleman that was discovered underneath the comforter.
The position of his body that you see in this photograph, is that generally what you observed, the position that he was laying in when you unrolled?
Yes.
And State's Exhibit 15F. Turn it. Okay. Is this also the same condition that you saw of the deceased male when you entered that room
Yes, ma'am.
after pulling the comforter off of him?
Correct.
The blanket or whatever sheet it is that appears to be laying underneath him, was that exactly as you observed on that day?
Yes.
Can you see in this photograph some of the things you indicated to us about how you could tell that he was deceased?
Lividity,
And what do you mean by that?
the color discoloration of his body,
Libby, go.
And what color are you talking about?
purple, dark red,
Is that the purple and dark red that you see sort of on his arms and stomach in this picture?
arms and stomach, yes.
You indicated that after you saw that, you left a deputy standing there to sort of maintain that scene in the body that had just been discovered, but not to disturb anything, and then you backed out. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you leave the residence altogether at that point?
Yes.
Prior to leaving the residence, and perhaps even prior to discovering that body, did you have an opportunity to make other observations of other rooms in the home?
There were other rooms.
Do you recall entering into those bedrooms?
One of them.
And what room was that?
It was the room at the end of the hallway that was leading up to the room that was locked.
Okay. And what did you observe in that room, if anything?
The door was open and the window was open as well.
Do you recall what type of window this was? A traditional up-down, or
I
what?
want to say it was a swinging window that opened in from out to outwards.
Okay, from inside and it opened out. Is that correct?
I believe so.
And it was open, you said.
Yes, ma'am.
During the time that you were inside the home, do you recall observing any blood inside the residence?
No.
Do you recall observing any weapons?
No.
Any indicate?
My son gets so mad so fast.
Can I just moment?
Absolutely.
Good Lord.
Nothing further. I'll pass it on.
All right, cross-examination.
Should I be worried?
When you first arrived on the scene and approached female laying in the driveway, did you notice that another orange marker had already been placed in that general vicinity?
I don't want to say it was orange. I know that it was marked.
And did you observe what it was attempting to mark?
Yes.
And was that a special casing?
Yes.
And then the two casings you saw, you also placed markers. Were those orange cone markers also?
Yes, ma'am.
And just taking the two markers separately, approximately how far away were those shell casings from the feet of Ms. Stevens?
A couple feet, ma'am. I can't say exactly.
Few feet?
Yes, ma'am.
Couple,
Yes, ma'am.
2 or 3 feet?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You indicated that you went inside and in one of the rooms that where the door was open, you also noticed that the window was open. That window didn't have any type of screen that was in any way keeping, for instance, fresh air from coming into the room or anything like that, correct?
I don't recall, ma'am. I'd have to see the picture.
That room, were you able to ascertain whether or not that appeared to be a master bedroom of a home in any way whatsoever?
No.
Were you able to ascertain if it looked like it was a room that belonged to perhaps a young adult or a child?
I couldn't determine.
And did you ask that any photographs of that window in that room be taken at all yourself?
No, ma'am.
Now, you indicated as you were exiting that you noticed there was a purse on the table as well as a set of keys. Is that correct?
As I was entering.
Oh, as you were entering?
Yes, ma'am.
Now, the door that was open at the front of this particular house, before anyone entered, did you ever see how far that door was open at all?
I did not.
And I'm going to show you what I've had marked as defense exhibits 1B through H. Let me show you what I've had marked for identification purposes as exhibit 1B through H and ask if you could peruse those photographs for a minute. As to exhibit, for identification purposes, 1B, does that photograph fairly and accurately depict your observations as you were walking through initially trying to clear in terms of the chair that you previously testified about?
Yes, ma'am, from the other direction, that'd be from the TV, taking it towards the residence.
But it is a fair and accurate
Yes,
depiction.
it is.
Judge, at this time, I'd like to introduce exhibit 1B,
No objection.
Could be admitted.
and if I might just publish it for a moment.
Okay.
Now, on that chair in particularly that we're looking at, there appears to be not only a bag of some types of chips, but there are other items that are there also. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And as best as you recall, those items would have been in that same exact position as you were walking through to clear the house initially. Is that correct?
Yes.
In showing you what I've marked for identification purposes as Exhibit 1C, is that a photograph that is an accurate and fair depiction of the dining room table that you looked at, or what appears to be a dining room table, and where you saw what you testified to as a purse?
From what I recall, ma'am.
Judge, I have no objection to any of these photographs.
All right, any of them want to move in will be admitted, but
I
let's just put it on the record, what they are.
I'll move in then, Judge, now at this time, Exhibit 1C, Exhibit 1D, 1E, 1F, 1G, and 1H.
They will be admitted.
Thank you. Again, just for just a few moments, I'm pointing to what would appear to be some type of purse. Is that the purse that you recall observing, or at least in the general vicinity of what you think was where you saw a purse?
In the general vicinity, ma'am.
Let me go back to 1C for a moment. You yourself, if you could just try to identify for us where you believe that you saw the keys that you previously testified to as you were walking through.
From what I recall, we were on the table.
On this particular table,
I want to say they were, I knew there was a set of keys. I can't specifically say exactly where they were in that area, but there was a set of keys near the purse.
and near the purse.
Yes,
Could you tell what type of keys they were? And by that, I mean that it appeared to be house keys, car keys, or you really just,
car keys and home keys.
what the other items that appear to be on this table, do you recall even seeing those items now that you see this photograph? Is that in some way refresh your recollection?
The gray plastic bag. I do remember.
Did you at any point in time look inside that bag at all?
No.
But was the bag in close proximity to the purse as the photograph depicts?
Yes.
Did you in any way whatsoever manipulate and or touch the purse or the bag in any way whatsoever, just to see if it could be used for any quick evidentiary purposes?
I did not.
And you indicated that as you entered the residence, the door was open. However, that would have been perhaps from some of the deputies also having in some way touched the door.
That is a possibility, ma'am. One way not.
But the house had all of its lights on. You said it was a very well lit house.
It was very well lit. Not all the lights were on.
You recalled in what areas the lights were on.
The open area where the door would go into from the front door, the living room, the hallway,
And what about the kitchen area where that
kitchen area, yes.
and the dining room area
Yes, ma'am.
where the purse was
Yes.
and the bag? Thank you very much. I have no other questions, Judge.
Read that right.
No reader.
May this witness be excused by the state
Yes, sir.
and by the defense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Captain, the excuse to witness this time. I'll ask the state to call your next witness.
Nicole Shelby Garman.
Shelby Garman. Ms. Garman, good morning and welcome. You'll come forward to be sworn wherever you're comfortable. So face me and please raise your right hand. Thank you. Do you swear affirm any testimony you give in this proceeding will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. Go follow the bailiff around the ramp that leads up to the witness chair. Please watch your step. When you get to the chair, go ahead and have a seat. Make yourself comfortable. That microphone is adjustable. Thank you.
Good morning, Ms. Garman. If you could please tell the jury your name and spell your name for the court reporter.
Shelby Garman, SHELBY,
And how are you currently employed?
I'm self-employed.
And what do you do?
I own and operate a fingerprint and background check company,
How long have you been doing that?
approximately 8 years.
Prior to doing that, or I guess while you were doing that at the same time, did you ever work for the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
Yes.
And how long ago was that?
About a year,
And how long did you work at the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office while you were working?
5 years.
And what were you doing with the Hillsborough County Sheriff's Office?
I was a crime scene investigator.
And if you could, please tell the jury a little bit about what a crime scene investigator does.
Sure. So I respond to various crime scenes to document, photograph, collect evidence, to include DNA, fingerprints.
And do you work in concert with detectives?
Yes.
And do you have any special background training or anything that you do in order to become a crime scene investigator?
I have an associate's degree from St. Pete College in crime scene technology, as well as a 2-year certificate.
Prior to working in the sheriff's office, did you work anywhere else as a crime scene investigator?
Yes, I did.
Where did you work prior to that?
Tampa Police Department for 7 years.
So a total of 12 years with law enforcement as a crime scene investigator?
Yes.
And during part of that time, I guess you continue to maintain this business that you have right now?
Correct.
All right, now, back in August of 2015, were you working as a crime scene investigator at that time?
Yes.
And as a crime scene investigator, are you often called out in the middle of the night or any time of the day or night to respond to scenes?
Yes, we are technically always on call. However, there's personnel that will be at the office, and then if there's something major, we'll be responding.
Now, specifically on August 20th of 2015, were you called out to a crime scene on Fensbury Drive?
Yes.
Do you recall about or approximately what time you were called out?
I want to. It was around 1:30, 1:40 in the morning.
And about what time do you arrive after you got called out?
Around 2:30.
And when you got there, what was going on at the scene?
There was a lot of detectives, crime scene tape. It was in a neighborhood, so there was people processing things on the exterior of the residence.
Okay. So prior to you arriving there were other crime scene investigators already there?
Yes.
Do you recall names of who these were?
I believe it was Robert Durr, Brandon Douglas, and supervisors.
Now, what were you tasked with anything when you arrived?
Yes, I was tasked with photographing and collecting evidence.
In any particular location?
I was mainly tasked with the interior of the residence.
Did you go straight in and start doing that?
No.
Okay, why was that?
We waited, I believe, for a search warrant to be conducted. So we were just waiting for the procedures of that.
And while you were waiting for the search warrant, was the house secure?
Yes.
And detectives and officers were around the house making sure no one entered anything inside the house?
Correct.
Do you recall approximately how long you waited there before the search warrant came in?
I knew it was well, maybe an hour, I'm not sure.
When you come, do you bring with you like equipment or things like that that you need to use to collect and process evidence?
Yeah, so we were furnished with a crime scene truck. Each crime scene investigator has their own fully furnished crime scene truck that has pretty much anything to respond to major cases, as well as any other kind of crime scene.
How many scenes by August of 2015 would you say you processed in your career?
Thousands.
When you were outside and when you were waiting to go into the interior?
Oh, I think this hardest video to get through
The responding
between the
residence,
dogs,
was
the
next door,
children,
neighboring residence. There was a deceased in the
and
driveway.
life.
She was still there when you arrived?
Yes.
I cannot. I'm struggling so hard,
Now, what did you do when you first came
but I'm an hour
So
and
the first
17
thing we do
minutes in,
is, we do a walkthrough
and I'm not
just to kind
stopping.
of understand what the scene is going to be like and what we're getting ourselves into in a sense. And the first thing I do is take
Because
photographs.
I'm not redoing it, and I just started this.
When you were doing all this?
Yes.
And you called it?
But I am sorry, it's
I believe
not
Greg Thomas was there, but there was
riveting
Um,
commentary. My
you
mind
know approximately how many
is
photos
not
you
here
took?
today.
The interior total photographs I took is 407.
I
Of the interior of
swear.
the residence was the majority of that.
All right, I'm going to show you what's marked as States Exhibits 7A through O, and ask you if you can take a quick look through that and see if you recognize those photos.
Yes.
Do you recognize them?
Yes.
Are those in fact photos you took that day?
Yes.
Did those photos very accurately depict what you saw when you went into the house on that day?
Yes.
Judge, move down to States Exhibit 7A through 0, or is it A through O, admitted into evidence?
No objection.
Okay, did it.
Move published.
You may publish.
Now, right here, what would you describe this area as?
That is the interior of the living room of the residence.
Okay, and when you walk into the residence, where is this particular room located?
So when you walked in, there was a dining area to the left, hallways with bedrooms to the right. You'd have to pass through the kitchen to get to the living room.
And in this picture, you see that there's a television on. Was that on when you got there?
Yes.
Right, and it looks like it's paused on something. Is that the way it was as well?
Yes.
And the chair and all the things on the floor, you didn't touch or move any of that?
No.
That's just how it was when you got there?
Correct.
Now, these look like bones. Were there animals present in the home?
I don't remember. I think maybe in the backyard, or they had already had animal control by the time that we had gotten there. I don't remember.
Right, and then stage 7B. What are we looking at here?
So
I
that is
think
the
the
other side of
dogs
living room.
are
So
on
I
the
would have been
bed and
standing,
they're just
on
they're just
the other
wrestling
side of the chair
around.
to take that last photograph. So this is the other side of it.
So basically, we're looking at it turned around and looking the other way.
Correct.
I just want them to stop.
7C,
There's just another angle of the interior of the living room.
and these sliding glass doors, where do they lead? Do you remember?
Because my daughter is
backyard.
asleep on the same bed.
7D,
I just want the dogs to stop doing what they're
There's just
doing.
another overall view of the interior with those sliding glass
I
doors.
can't yell at them.
7E,
That's an overall.
I can't
interior
bring
of
the
living
kid
room
back in
from different
here
angles.
to come get the dog because he's gonna yell
7F,
It's the same.
and be
overall interior of the living room.
me.
7G,
Overall interior of the living room.
and the bag of chips that we see there, that was already there when you were there.
Yes.
7H,
That's what could be considered like a mid-range photograph of the area behind the recliner.
right. And at this point, had you observed something on the floor drawing your attention?
Yeah.
Okay. 7I, what are we looking at here?
So that's mid-range of the same area, just a little closer.
I don't even know what you're talking about. Wait.
That is unknown red substance from the tile behind that tree line.
Okay, so
You're talking about the crime scene, unknown red
Close-up
substance.
And 7J is an actual close-up of what you observed.
Correct.
And the unknown red substance you're referring to, that's right there, correct?
Yes.
Hey guys, it's blonde.
7K,
I hate when they
This
do
is
that.
going to be the corner of the living room on the other side of
Unknown red
fireplace
substance.
and I would say the
What is it? Ketchup? Did you taste it?
that's going to be a mid-range photograph of unknown substance from that wall.
and 7M. What's that?
That is the armrest of the couch that's in the living room.
And going back to 7B, is that the couch we see over here?
Correct.
Okay. So this is the arm of that couch that's closest to the hallway that goes straight towards the kitchen?
Correct.
7M. 7N, is that a close-up?
As a close-up of unknown substance from that arm.
Again, the unknown substance, that's what you're referring to, correct?
Yes.
7O, what is this?
So that is the same armrest. However, I pulled back my camera so that you can see, because I placed evidence marker there, so that you can see the couch in relation to the living room.
I'm going to show you what have been marked as States Exhibits 8A through K, and ask you to take a look through these and see if you recognize these.
Yes.
What are they?
They're photographs of the interior of the dining room.
All right, do they fairly accurately depict what the dining room looked like on the morning, I guess, or the morning hours that you introduced the residents?
Yes.
Move that States Exhibits 18, or I'm sorry, 8A through K, admitted evidence.
No objection.
They'll be admitted.
Published, Your Honor?
You may.
And this is the dining room you're referring to?
Correct.
Right, now over here, right here, is that the front door?
Yes.
And so when you came in, this is the room that's immediately to your left?
Correct.
And 8B,
It's just the overall of the dining room.
Be able to see it.
It's another angle of the dining room.
8B,
I'll be right back.
Same overall of the dining room.
and again, things that are on the table, they were there just like that when you were right.
Correct.
8E,
It's another shot of the interior of the dining room.
then 8F.
That is an overall view of the dining room. However, I've placed evidence markers.
Okay, now, when you came in and began your search and taking these photographs, the first that we see on the floor, was that where it was located?
Yes.
8G,
That is a mid-range photograph of some of the items that I'm depicting with my evidence markers.
8H,
That is going to be a plastic bag that I marked as evidence marker L.
then 8I, what are we looking at here?
That is a receipt removed from that plastic bag.
So you, at this point now, you've taken that receipt out of that bag that was laying next to the purse.
Correct.
And it indicates that it was from the Navy Exchange, and it's a receipt dated 8/20/2015, correct?
Yes.
And 8J
That is an interior view of the purse.
and 8K.
The same, just different pockets, interior view of the purse.
Let me show you what's marked as States 9B through DD. You can take a look at those.
Okay.
Do you recognize those?
Yes.
And what are those photos of?
Those are going to be photographs that I took of the kitchen of the residence, as well as evidence that I found in the kitchen.
All right, and do these pictures fairly and accurately depict what the kitchen looked like on that early morning hours when you were in there processing the scene?
Yes.
Right, Judge Mood has States 9B through DD admitted into evidence.
No objection.
They'll be admitted.
All right, 9B, what are we doing here?
So that is the kitchen floor. That is the silver that you see is going to be the bottom of the refrigerator. And I've placed scales as well as evidence markers.
Now, why are these scales and evidence markers there?
So in this case, we had located some red substance believed to possibly be blood. And so when we document, we want to get measurements as well as different markers in a sense so we can tell the difference between them.
Okay, now 9C, this is more of a close-up.
Correct. That's going to be like a mid-range photograph, just that I'm kind of zooming in a little closer so you can get more of an idea of the size and shape.
The 9D, we'll be farther back.
So that is going to be the overall view of the same area that I just photographed.
The 9E, what is in here?
So That is, I'm focusing on unknown substance, kind of red substance from the bottom of the refrigerator.
Okay, and when you say, are you referring to these things right along here?
Correct.
So, those are those kind of dots that you see in that picture?
Yes.
9F,
So that's going to be the side view of the same refrigerator with my marker still in place.
and 9G,
That's a close-up view of the bottom of the refrigerator.
and 9H.
That is going to be the side of the refrigerator with my evidence marker.
And what was the purpose of this picture?
To show the size and scale of the unknown substance believed to be blood on the side of the refrigerator.
And those substances are indicated by like those are the darker red dots, I guess you could say, on the side of the refrigerator we're looking at?
Correct.
9I,
That is the same area that I just described, just with different scales, vertical scales.
and then 9J, there's a marker on the floor, what is that?
That is going to be unknown substance from the kitchen floor.
9K,
That is the same marking, but without my scale.
and then 9L,
That is going to be the close-up view of red substance from the kitchen floor. That I have marked as normal.
Dear God.
and 9N,
That is going to be unknown red substance from the kitchen floor and a different area.
and 9N, same thing,
Unknown red substances, I tell you.
and 9O,
That is going to
Ketchup.
be the bottom of the refrigerator without my markings from where I previously mentioned the bottom of the refrigerator.
and 9P,
That is going to be a close-up view of the markings with my scale.
9Q. Who's here?
So this is the overall view of, I would say, the kitchen island.
You left that dog
Marked certain items on the ground as being evidence.
outside
Now, as we're looking at this kitchen island, what is the
my door.
Behind me would have been the living room.
The living room, is that the room you just saw?
I swear to God.
The ones with the TV on and all that?
Correct.
Okay. So the sofa, in other words.
In the Lord of God.
Behind that counter, yes.
Only
now,
swear to God.
on the floor, and I'm going to show you 9R.
I cannot.
This starts on the floor. So were they there in that condition when you arrived?
I quit. I give up.
And 9S.
That is the side of the kitchen. It's an overall view of the kitchen on the other side of that kitchen island.
And
Here we are.
9T. Reference point. So in 9T, you can see that family we showed pictures of earlier in the back. Right?
Yes.
And what are you looking at or trying to capture in this picture?
So this is an overall view of the
Okay.
kitchen.
Well, here. We're going to have to stop this. We're going to have to stop it. We're just going to have to stop it. Ignore everything that's going on in the background because we're just going to have to stop this for right now. And we're going to have to pick back up here in a little bit. And I got to go handle some stuff outside here. So, yeah. Okay. We'll continue this later. Okay. Pick back up with the crime scene investigator at a later time. This is real life. This is real life, y'all. Okay.